Welcome to Performance Talk with your hosts, Yul Gordon and Chris Costa, where professionals discuss the latest news and developments in the profession and all areas that affect sports performance, strength and conditioning, nutrition, recovery, and much more. Listen now to your host and this week's guest, next on Performance Talk.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Performance Talk. This is the Performance Roundtable Series, and we have athletic trainers today. Chris, you want to tell us how you're doing and introduce the fellas?
I'm great. It's Friday. Big day tomorrow. Lots going on tomorrow. 3 games to attend. It's going to be a busy weekend. Hockey's starting. Rugby's ending. Football's starting to wind down a little bit. So just busy, busy, busy. All right. So today we have athletic trainers, but an amalgamation of athletic trainers. We have Michael Mullen, who's practicing but teaching more. We have Jason Byrne, who have never met before. So this will be good to actually talk to Jason. And Brian Newen, I've heard of Brian before, but I don't know a lot about what Brian does. Just heard his name before. Unfortunately, our last guy, Joel Ludke, who we had on the show before, is not here at the moment. He's probably caught up in business. So he'll join us later if he can. Yul, what's your first question?
Chris, I have about 12 questions. Which one do you want? No, guys, let's go around and let's go around and have the guys introduce themselves. Tell the audience what they're doing right now. Just about a 15-second blurb. Michael, you can start us off.
I own a practice called Integrative Rehab Training, where I see clients at a studio at I had built at my house in Cumberland Center.
Nice.
So I see people in person mostly. I do a lot of consulting with organizations and teams and individuals. I do a lot of lecturing where I teach day programs, lecture at conferences on various things related to human biodynamics, movement, strength, rehabilitation. And I do a lot of different mentoring for other professionals in the field to try and help to create an outreach to their athletes that they work with.
Outstanding. How about you, Brian?
I don't know what I'm doing. No, I'm just kidding. I'm practicing over here in Los Angeles, doing, I guess, athletic performance coaching, really, integrate a lot of the sports medicine stuff, but really just a focus on the strength conditioning world, especially with the clients that I have. Do some stuff for Hollywood stuff. I also speak on the Perform Better tour, but, my first and biggest job right now is fatherhood. I got a 5-year-old son, 16-year-old daughter, which I prioritize a lot. And my wife owns and runs a hospice. So she brings home the bacon. I just try to help out wherever I can.
Sometimes that's what we do. That place in life. Jason?
I work at a very unique space. It's called the Boston Sports Performance Center. We opened just in the beginning of 2020. I was telling some folks earlier off air that it was right before COVID. And we've got sports medicine, orthopedics docs integrated with sports physical therapy, integrated with concussion rehab, integrated with the return to play process, as well as just straight up sports performance training in a massive state-of-the-art facility. So I'm spoiled and lucky beyond belief.
Well, great. It sounds like we have a very eclectic group, and I know there's some experience in here all the way across the board as far as, practice and what you've done and those kind of things. But let's start with my favorite topic, and Chris will pull me off of it when I go too far. But let's start with professionally where athletic training is as a profession right now from your perspective. Brian, you can start since you're Papa right now.
I'm an athletic trainer. It was my first go around with, the level of professionalism. I think it's always going to play a special place in my heart. I wanted to be a part of a team, be a part of people's lives in a way that the athletic trainer shows up. I was enamored by those old Gatorade. Remember those ads, it's like one day, instead of saying, hi, Mom, they're going to say, hey, athletic trainer, thank you. And I for me, I think the profession of the athletic trainer is such a special place because it's something that has to deal with heart. It's something that deals with people in their bad spots. And from that standpoint, I'm always going to be a proud athletic trainer. Professionally, though, as I look from the outside in and see what's happening, it's hard to sit there and say, hey, this is what I'm here to do. These are the people that I'm with, I stand with. There's a lot of the athletic training world where I see in regards to certifications and how we're doing it and what we're doing as we show up and what are we teaching people first. We're teaching all these skills of what, but not who. Character is probably one of the most important things I've ever found with my athletic training. People, and to not hold people accountable in character nowadays, and especially during certifications and things like that. That's where I feel like there's a huge gap, and I'd love to be able to fill this gap with heart. But is athletic training the group, or is it my strength and conditioning coaches who I found to have so much more heart these days? I don't know. I just know that the profession in and of itself, as much as I love it, and as much as I'll always be a proud athletic trainer, the certification realm and that whole realm leaves much to be desired for me. And that's kind of where I'm at with the athletic training.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. We can roll off of that a little bit later. Michael?
Yeah, thank you. I'll echo what Brian said in terms of being a proud athletic trainer. I mean, when I went to college and studied athletic training, I wanted to work with my hands and learn a lot, work with athletes, not behind the desk. I had to be self-driven. I wasn't in a great program. Found a lot of love with it. Worked in a different setting, but did do a lot of on-the-field coverage. Brian's being very humble. He worked on the pro level with pro teams, and I remember having conversations with him. Had the best Gatorade concoction for his athletes ever. I think that's what you said, Brian. Is that right? Like the best, right?
You got to take pride. You got to take pride.
Absolutely. But the thing to Brian's point, that I feel has, with really good intentions, when they changed to this entry-level master's program now, unfortunately, it has really changed the dynamics of the field.
Right.
With good intentions of an allied health profession in an attempt to try and help to gain credibility, better education, more time, programs are closing down because people are realizing, I don't want to spend 5 years going to school to be an athletic trainer when I can do one more year and make more money and being physical therapists. I don't want to be working all these crazy hours and all these responsibilities. And I know of programs that are closing, and they're ones that have been around for decades. And it's heartbreaking to me to see the direction that the field is going because of that added criteria that they've put into place, again, with good intentions.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna say that probably 15 years ago, when they started pushing for the master's degrees and the programs there, I got a little itchy and kind of let my my athletic training certification lapse. And I focus primarily on performance now, and have since, probably back at that point. But specifically for the reason Brian's talking about, you could kind of feel things start to edge that way. But Jason, go ahead and give us your perspective.
Man, I don't want to echo everyone else, but I do feel the same. It's funny actually listening to Brian and Mike talk about the direction. I think we even started the conversation that way. I'm not even entirely sure what the direction, besides, being an entry level or a master's required program kind of profession. I'm not even really sure what the direction is these days. And I think it also is reflected. I do a fair amount of clinical instructor and, being a preceptor for these students. I think it's reflected in the students that are in these programs, that they're in these programs and they don't even necessarily know where they're going with it. I think you can take it a step further in the programs that are running these master's programs. I don't think they necessarily know where they're going with their students either. To me, that is where we're at as a profession of athletic trainers. Is there is no identity, there's no beacon, there's no compass for young people to say, hey, what's an athletic trainer? I don't think that there's and rightfully so, it's kind of hard to have an all-encompassing answer for a position that can be so dynamic and flexible, but there has to be some direction and clear direction as to how we're supposed to mold this next group of athletic trainers, if there is to be sort of the next group of athletic trainers at all.
Because athletic trainers are recognized by the American Medical AMA and Health Resources there should be a natural starting point somewhere in there. But the ability to find it is lost somewhere, I think, in the academic trials and tribulations. And it's like you were alluding to there, Jason. Okay, you come into this program, what's the direction? What's the end state for the program? Is it certification? Is it a certain level of skill and so forth like that? Or is it just to get through and go out there and find a job? If you're coming in, I think athletic training has the best setup as far as from strength conditioning to athletic training. You can even go as far as
psychology,
sports psychology.
Yeah.
The best setup is with you guys as far as having a framework, but it's the execution of that framework. And sometimes, we don't like to start trouble on this show. We're pretty even-tempered, but sometimes
it's not trouble. First of all,
sometimes it's in the leadership. But go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
Well, look, the system's going to crack. It's going to crumble. Let's face it. The only way there is no creation without destruction. Every one of us athletic trainers needs to understand that. All right. Most of the things that we were there for happened because we were all filling up a desire to work. All right. People say that, oh, you need to fuel your passion. This was my entire talk and perform better this year. I did not know I wanted to be an athletic trainer, but I knew I wanted to be like the head athletic trainer who treated me respectfully. He garnished respect. He had the most beautiful ankle tape job. He was at work on time. He did his stuff. The athletes loved him. I looked at him and I saw myself. And I think when you look at a program and with the way athletic training was in my day, I volunteered my way to whatever 30 hours a week along with working with the team. You talk about gaining experience versus
hours.
Let's just talk about how you get in. And so we have this field now that's dominated by the people that are willing to do the nerd work. If I had been faced with reading, and I am ADD, I am not the guy when it comes to being organized, but being told where to go, being with the team and all those responsibilities. That's what put it together for me. And then going through it is where I learned. That's where you gained. What am I doing here as an athletic trainer? It's much way more than the stuff that they're trying to teach us via the books. Is what we bring to the table. And that's called heart. And then now we're sitting here talking about, hey, we're sitting here and not talking about heart, not talking about holding space for people who are hurt. And all these things you will never learn unless you actually go through the ranks of being the piece of crap that was wrapping ice bags and doing all those things, all the little things that we're doing just because we want to be of a place, to be a part. And then now having, I pay for this, so I should be doing this. I already learned, the degree says it. I learned you've taken away all the experience and you just shoved it into, here you have it in your diploma, and you talk about all that heart and all that being there for not more than anything, just showing up because you want to be there as a real athlete. What are you as an athletic trainer other than someone there to be there at people either at their worst, don't want to go out to practice, just need a friend? Anyway, what I really am bringing this down to is the experience part and the going through it because you were going through to gain and be better versus I'm being here and just, this is what I just got to go through to get this so I can do that. Like, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, they're checking boxes. And that's one of the challenges, I think, with some of these programs is that they're in an attempt to do all the stuff that's necessary so that they're mandated by the NATA's guidelines now. It's a lot of box checking versus, like Jason said, it's that experience, it's that volunteer getting into it, but they got to check the boxes. So that's what they're doing.
Yeah. I came from a program, and I have a feeling that I'm not going to be alone here. I came from a program where I think there has to be a hierarchy, a priority chosen by the people who are running the programs that, yes, we have to be able to teach you a ton of science and a lot of skills, and there is classwork. No, I don't think any of us are saying, let's not spend any time in the classroom and let's just be on the sidelines. But I came from a program where I can think of like 2 or 3 specific examples where it was, we can make a deadline extension for some of these box checking moments because you have an opportunity to go be immersed. Right. And ultimately, at the end of the day, and this transcends every healthcare profession, and to a degree, what you know is essentially irrelevant if you don't have any capacity to care about anybody else. It just doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, and it has to matter. We know as an athletic trainer, your first mandate is to, pardon my language, but to give a shit about what you're doing and who you're working with. The athlete, if you don't care and your bad day is everybody else's bad day, you're starting off with problems. So no use to start off with problems. These are some pretty good points. When we talk about the progression of the profession, how do we progress it? We'll start with Michael this time. We keep Jason in the middle and then Brian.
It's a tricky question. So a couple things. So I'm on adjunct faculty down at University of New England that has I'll say a pretty strong athletic training program. I'm fortunate to be able to go in and do a few lectures to the athletic training group there. And Jason does some, mentoring and sees some people as well too. It's exposing them to be able to appreciate that this conversation matters a lot to them because they're not getting it, I think, as much from their instructors. It's going in and I present things that are different than what they're learning in their classwork. I'm going in and I'm talking to them about the most important thing that they can think about, which is the relationships they're going to have with their athletes and how the athletes look to them for guidance. It's the behavioral therapy that they put on every single day with every client they said. You just said it. If they're showing up to work in a bad mood, everybody's day's a bad mood, and it resonates throughout the entire training room. It's the ability to be able to appreciate that it's more than just the checking of boxes, and it's more than just the specific tests that you learn and assessments that you learn. It's how to be, going back to the way that I know that Ryan and Jason did it, immersing yourself into the field. It's not just standing on a sideline waiting for somebody to be hurt, but it's working with the athletes on the sideline while you're, managing practice at the same time. And I'm going to rehab this ankle at the same time, so I learn more about ankles. And I'm going to, clean things up so that it's ready for that. When these people come off the field, things are in a good place so they can kind of be set up and ready to go. It's being part of the whole process versus just the kind of waiting around for people to be injured or just nailing down that ideal tape job.
That's a good response. That's an excellent response. Understanding that our athletic trainers are the first line of response, I call it, to any kind of injury or acute injury or possible injury. So you always have that in the back of your mind. But Jason?
I think the first thing that has to be identified specifically by just the profession as a whole, and more specifically the people, who are running the programs, is we've started to lose the, massive amounts of athletic trainers that had the capacity to care. That is a problem. It's like, number one, let's identify that's a piece that's missing. And then I think, beyond that capacity to care, I think the other enticing thing, and Brian touched on this a little bit, of the allure of the athletic trainer. In what other position do you have the ability to have really close relationships with physicians and physical therapists, and you get to work with strength and conditioning professionals? You get to work with mental health professionals that's, only handle that exact realm. If we show young athletic trainers, or at least young people that are thinking about what they may want to do, if we show them the extent, the capacity to be this absolute focal point for the athlete, whether they're frankly injured or not, we are the cog that is able to align all sorts of resources for high performance and for them to be able to do whatever they want to go do. So I speak to that, and it comes to my mind because I'm lucky that, like, here at BSPC, that's kind of what I try and do. I have my hand in all sorts of these little different areas. I don't get to teach as much as Mike, and I never hold the microphone, but I get a chance to be able to teach some of our students. I get to interact with our physicians, and to me, that seems like something that would still be desirable for a young person who wants to work in sport. Hey, this is a position where I can do a lot, especially if I care about the athletes.
Yeah, love what you said, Jason. I mean, I think Mike, you hit it spot on too. I think ultimately, without the check boxes, if we could get Michael Bay to direct our commercial for the athletic trainers, okay, we're going to create some excitement. All right, we're going to create some explosions. All right, we're going to make this profession look sexy as hell. In order to move this profession forward, there has to be an awakening. There has to be a realization of what this profession is. And I think we've just lost sight of what it is.
No, I've heard all three of you guys talk about working with other professionals. And I think that's kind of, I think all of the professions that touch athletes, underperformance, need to start getting that in their brain. It's not just.
And that's what I mean. Is in order to move it forward, I don't think there's really much awareness, first of all. So as far as like this big overarching understanding of what is an athletic trainer, you ask that to the general public, we've lost it. They're going to say, what's an athletic trainer? Oh, you got like a personal trainer? Is that what that is? Let's face it, we were sitting there for how long? A decade going, this is National Athletic Training Month. Be sure to tell your people, you're not a trainer, you're an athlete. I'm like, what is this? Like, it's a good shot commercial. Hey, this is a person with heart. We are looking for athletic trainers in the world. If you're a person with X first, if you delineate what's X first, how to put a Band-Aid, what is it? Like, what is the number? You can ask 10 different athletic trainers, and everybody's top things are going to be different. And that is already a sign of, hey guys, y'all not on the same team.
Disarray.
Right? You guys do a lot of similar things. A lot of you can see. Maybe a lot of you guys can do, whatever your tests for together. But ultimately, there is a lot of, like ego shifts. I do this. I don't do this. I am not capable. I could do that if I wanted to, but I just don't have the.
How do we get everybody focused?
That's what I'm saying. We got to get Michael Bay to shoot a commercial, and we do the first things. Like, what are you going to do? What do athletic trainers do? And then they come out there and you see them, raw, come and help people off the field. Giving teams like perking them up high fives, or people who are down, or athletes who have dealt with like the stories that come from the athletic trainer brothers and sisters that I know. The amount of beautiful, I don't know if you guys know this, but I've lost an athlete. All right. I've lost Al Lucas on April 10th, 2005, broke his neck on the football field during a kickoff. All right. I was there. We did the whole spine, but it was that moment when Al was taken away from this human experience that reminds me today that, yes, I do not believe that I'm a human being having a spiritual experience. I believe I'm a spiritual being having a very human experience. I believe athletic trainers are spiritual beings, and you have to be. If you want to enter this realm, to not get paid and asked what we have to go through, there has to be a special part of you that's doing this because your soul's answering something. Now, I know that's deep, but like I said, I've gone deep in this career because of what I face. I could care less about Band-Aids and cuts anymore. Are you going to live? That's one thing. So my story in and of itself can speak great volumes for athletic trainers around the world. You shoot a commercial, great. Mike's process, all great. You bring stories together and you culminate them and you put them on the athletic training website. Stories will define whatever this is, not bullet lists. Stories will bring us home. They will bring us to who we are, but no one's willing to tell the stories because we're all busy taping ankles, cleaning Gatorade, and fucking doing everything else. So we need to get a director who's going to speak volumes about what's profession. And then once there is a centered look at what is this profession really, then people can get on board with that, right? But I think without the marketing, then who knows, right? Marketing's such a big piece of any business.
I agree with you on the fact that it's a messaging problem.
Thank you.
But I think it's deeper than that, though. Though, like, I don't know. I'm someone that, Jocko Willink, if anyone knows him, he writes, obviously books that are centered around ownership. I personally believe that if the athletic trainer is going to be this profession that is in the center of all of these other pieces, then isn't it our responsibility to at least go build our half of the bridges? So when we talk about the messaging that has to be around what is athletic training and changing the narrative of what it means to be an athletic trainer, I've always felt responsible, partly because there's so many conversations, Brian, of people being like, oh, you must be a personal trainer. I think you have to get young kids happy and excited, not concerned or nervous to tell that story and build that bridge to not only the consumer, the athlete, the patient, whatever, the client, but all of these other professions. And I can tell you, at least from my own anecdotal experience, it works, and now you have changed at least one physician's mind of like, wow, not all athletic trainers are just sort of grumpy and lazy, and just want to hang out in the athletic gym. There's some out there that are happy to push to the limits of what the profession can do instead of just sort of hanging out somewhere in the middle, but sometimes useful, but not so much.
How much of that is you think financial expectations when maybe an athletic trainer who's been at it for a while and they feel like they're just, bouncing their head up against the wall, long hours, and they can't see the end of the road. So they're not getting paid. They're married, got, one baby on the way, whatever the case may be. And they're just kind of the grumpy athletic trainer. How much of that is that? And that's why the story gets buried. Go ahead, Michael.
No, that's all right. So you can't address behavior if behavior is not willing to be addressed. You can't address motivation if motivation is not willing to be looked at internally. One of the things that athletic trainers do an amazing job of is behind the scenes. So much of what we do is that communication between athletes and doctors, athletes and coaches, parents, being that go-between about working with a dentist, being the one that is being able to do a better job of being involved because they like the human, to Brian's point, they like the human experience, and they like doing what they do because they like being part of the human experience. And this unfortunate part is that because so many things do get tied down to the financial piece, I'm not saying I should want people to be hardships by any stretch of the imagination. And because there are so many things that the broken model of crazy hours and crazy travel times and expectations isn't being addressed well enough, that it is a hindrance. And until some of those pieces can be put into place, but also appreciating the fact that the behavior of each of us, we're dynamic, we're interactive. You can hear kind of like how we are with the pride we take in our work, that if that's not part of who they are, then they should be doing something else.
Yeah.
But the almighty ego piece is the last piece that I think needs to be addressed as well too. You're not going to get all these accolades. You're not going to have that athlete come and say, "Oh my gosh, that was just the best rehab session I've ever had," all the time. You're not going to have, it's not the things that that you have prevented by working with someone and retraining them and having the communication between the strength coach and you and the athlete to kind of really coordinate them, that you prevented stuff from happening that were really bad. You just have to kind of have that internal happiness because the pats in the back are not going to happen all the time. That's part of what we do. So the glory, I think, if people are looking for the glory and the big money and all that kind of stuff, you have to kind of appreciate that's not the way the profession can be, frankly.
Any profession in the performance realm that is focused on service is not going to be that. Unfortunately, there is some of that happens, but we all know that service has to be your first priority. And as Brian's saying, it's got to come from a place of caring and giving a shit about what's going on. Pardon my language, my grandmother probably slapped me. Sorry.
No. Not this day and age.
But check this out, Michael. You were talking about going and being with that athlete and talking to the other professionals. Let's drill down a little bit and talk just a little bit about expectation from you guys, experiences both past and present. When you've had an athlete coming back from an injury, but they're not where they want to be, or you have one trying to come back, but they are not where they should be. How do you talk to the coach? How do you talk to mom and dad? How do you talk to yourself? What do you say to the athlete? And these are all questions I'm asking for some of the young practitioners in the audience. So some of you guys tell how you may have handled those situations. You get to go first this time, Jason.
Yeah. Again, we start talking about prerequisites of things that you have to have before, somebody hands you your credentials. I think being able to have a hard conversation, and that sounds simple, is an absolute must. And it really doesn't matter what realm you're working in. Being able to have hard conversations in the service business is incredibly important. And so we've got to start there. And the only way to get really good at having hard conversations is to not avoid. I think I've seen a ton of colleagues of mine over the years that have avoided those conversations, prolonged those conversations. Just understand that the longer, the more time that gets in between of those conversations happening, you're not managing the expectations of the athlete. And so you've got to be able to nip certain, if you've got an athlete that thinks, oh, I should be ready next week, you've got to nip that in the butt earlier rather than later, because if you wait until they think that they're ready to rock, and then all of a sudden you drop the bomb on them that they're not ready to go, you've mismanaged that expectation, and now you've created drama that you just don't need, you don't have time for. So you've got to be willing to have the hard conversations early as opposed to late. That's got to be number one for me.
Right. Brian?
Again, I said, I'm a big heart guy. I think my favorite tools is like the Don Miguel Ruiz side of things, the 4 agreements. Have you guys read those? You guys know those 4 agreements. I think it's important in the scope of training and rehab. The 4 agreements are by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's a small book, but it says, be impeccable with your word. Okay? Yep. Let him know the truth. Be impeccable with your word. You're not here to sugarcoat. Tell him what's going on. All right? Don't take anything personally. I think one of the worst things we can do as athletic trainers is to decide if someone's broken or fixed. We got to get that off the table, because there is no such thing, guys.
Doesn't exist.
We are always in the realm of finding our best version of ourselves. And there are many athletes who, because of their injury, became better. So let's not even get into that room. Again, don't take your injury personally. Don't take the comment personally. I think that's the second one. Don't make assumptions. Don't assume that, oh, this is just going to turn out better. This is going to turn out worse. This is not the way to do life, all right? And then just no matter what, always do your best, okay? So the 4 agreements: be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. Always do your best, whether you're training, rehabbing. Such an important piece of your actual puzzle to realize it's not a broken or fixed thing. It's not a start or end thing. It's just the journey, baby. And that does bring into the other book, which is the 5 levels of attachment. And I think making sure that whenever we are doing rehab for an athlete or getting them better, that our attachment isn't, we're going to get you back. That's not the attachment. The attachment is, we're just going to get you playing at your very best. Like, what are we attached to here? Being pain-free, being stronger. But whatever it is that you decide to do for that week, make sure you attach to something that you could be successful with. Then continue to build off. But don't make the attachment, we're going to get you back on the field running 4-2. And that's what we're going to do. Like, guys, be just and bring your best, but understand that the attachments you have to every athlete are healthy and sound. And that'll come from that book, The 5 Levels of Attachment by Don Miguel Ruiz's son. So I love those books, and have at it, young bucks.
Control the controllables, right?
Yeah, baby.
Realistic expectations. Michael?
Have you heard about the 5 factors, the Mullen method? No, I'm just kidding. So awesome info. Great. Thank you both very much for that great stuff. In all honesty, there's to build on that. Concept 1, empathy. You have to have empathy in the field. So to talk to the athlete, to talk to the parent, to talk to the coach, you have to have that sense of like understanding. 2, honesty. Okay. And just being honest. To Jason's point, I mean, you can only tell them what it is that you feel honestly is the case, which brings you to opinion. So you have an opinion based upon, brings me to number 4, your experience. In my experience, what I've found is, I feel it's my opinion that at this stage, here's what's going on. It might change in the next week or 2, but based upon what I've found in my experience, and in my all honesty, the 5th piece is, what are the long-term implications? We've been in the field long enough that we've seen some of those athletes and have the long-term implications. We've read about what happens with multiple concussions and people getting back too early. We see what happens with some of these knee injuries or these post-surgical stuff getting back too early and having long-term problems with those things in the future. And when you're dealing with kids that are at the high school collegiate level, they can't think that way if they're too immersed in that moment. But then you go back to those other elements of the other 4 and say, in my opinion, let me tell you what I found. In my experience, I've seen some people on the opposite end that are having a lot of problems. This isn't worth it right now. Let's give this another week or 2, because I feel that if a little, you know what I mean? So when you can kind of combine all of those elements, then I feel that that's another way to be able to kind of create a message that's much more accepting and understanding for all that are involved.
One of the things that Mike just said, just touched on, I just had a conversation with a mother of a young girl, high school lacrosse player, just tore her ACL. And I found myself having this conversation with this mom, and she's talking about, oh, you're getting recruited and playing college ball, and and what about prom and classes, and 2 years from now, am I going to be one of those retailers? All sorts of things that are just like, way, way out there. We have no control over so many of those. So like, I just won't even go there. And so when we start talking about, having hard conversations, some of it is just setting the expectation. Mike said it just a second ago, right from the get-go, that things could change. So you feel really good right now. Your range of motion is really good right now. Your strength is really good right now. Your cardiovascular fitness is terrible. This is a fluent journey. Brian said it before too. Get them on board with the idea that this is going to be a journey right from the get-go. And now you've created an environment where I think the athlete is far more likely to be honest with you about how they feel, whether it's good, bad, ugly, whatever. But you're going to create an environment where you can have some dialogue. Hey, look, I know 2 weeks ago, I really felt that this was our biggest obstacle. But now I really think we got to shift gears and we got to attack this. And now all of a sudden that hard conversation just isn't as difficult to have. And that we're talking about it in the context of the patient or the client or the athlete, but that also goes with the coach. When you're talking with coaches, athletic directors, GMs, it doesn't really matter if you've created an environment where you feel comfortable and they know that, hey, I know that Jason's going to give me his best opinion in the moment. I can ask him again tomorrow and see if he's changed his mind. I know it's not always going to be what I want to hear. If you do that early, it makes everything so much easier on the backside. And I know that sounds really cliche. And for the young athletic trainer that's sitting there listening to this podcast, they're going, oh yeah, geez, a couple of old geezers thinking about this. But it is so true that if you start there in your profession of just getting in the habit, brand new coach gets hired, brand new GM gets hired, whatever it may be, create that environment as quickly as possible where they know that they're going to get somebody that's shooting it straight, shooting it honest, and is always just trying to do the best that they possibly can for them, for the athlete, for the school, for the team. Now, all of a sudden, these hard conversations, these awkward conversations, these controversial conversations kind of just dissipate a lot.
Would all three of you guys agree that the first understanding for a young practitioner coming in, maybe first job right out of college or, maybe still relatively new, under 3 years or so, is to understand that they're the linchpin for almost everything that happens with an athlete. You're the linchpin in the athletic training room to everything else. If you're not told it, you'll find out real quick. Where do the conversations take place? I mean, the first time I went to a pretty good sized school where there was 21 teams and 700 athletes or whatever. And I walked in the training room and I had like 9 questions immediately, all at the same time. You either recognize and you take a deep breath and go, okay, one at a time. You, what? No, go there. You, what? Go over there. Whatever the case may be, if you recognize that, and hopefully you guys would agree to that, then you can eat the elephant one bite at a time. I'm sure Chris is going to like that one. You didn't hear it. Yeah.
And Brian said it, that has to be a prereq, right? That you have to know that right out of the gate. And you also have to embrace it. So when we start talking about, to go full circle, the things that make an athletic trainer, let's put that up there. You've got to embrace being that linchpin, that person, that cog in the wheel that makes it all run for the athlete, especially when they're having hard times.
And that goes back to establish, to your point with that linchpin, that goes down to establishing the relationships that you can with the coaches, with the athletic department, the athletic director, letting the athletes know that you've got thoughts and there's a process that they follow and it goes through you in order to be able to kind of have some of that stuff happen. And you kind of being that tentative soul that's not willing to kind of like, hey, I want to have a meeting with the football coach. I want to have a meeting with the women's lacrosse coach. I want to, you know what I mean? To be able to kind of create that dialogue and let them know that you're comfortable and confident with some of the things that you're going to do, I think is an important part to allow that to happen successfully.
See, Mike,
I think that was awesome. I'm sorry, I just want to butt off of what Mike is talking about right there. Jason was talking about. I think that's one of the biggest things in regards to those expectations that other people, put onto the athletic trainer's shoulders if something was to happen or all the things go on. I think it's easy to get caught up in all of their stuff, right? They're emotionally attached. There's all these other pieces that you get swept into the drama of things. This person needs to get back. We got a championship game. But then here we are trying to be a soundboard and to look at this thing, without the emotion, be that source of calm or judgment in all the chaos is a huge piece of it, right? I think that is also one of those like, hey, this is not my first ankle sprain, guys. This isn't the first ACL tear we've had on campus, and this won't be our last. Okay? Everybody calm down. But that every single time something happens, it's like, guys, these are high-level athletes. The injury is part of this. Why do you think we're here? Like, it's not like I'm here and all the injuries go away. It's not the case. I'm here so that you can have the injuries and we can continue to move on. This is part of the game. And getting swept up in the emotion of all the things really negates what we're here to do, I think. I think it's like we're here so that it isn't a fucking 5-alarm fire every single time something happens.
Right.
Okay? And so to that effect, I do see such a huge piece of that athletic trainer's role and responsibility being the calm, hey, this is what we do kind of thing. Sorry, Mike, I just have to throw that in there.
No, listen, and then go back, right? Brian, you said in the beginning, we were talking about, educational programs and young athletic trainers and so on. Think about the things that we're talking about, guys, right? None of this could be taught in a classroom. Mm. I mean, what good is your Lockman test if you are the part of the 5-alarm fire in the middle of the field, right? Yeah. What good is all of that knowledge and even your previous experience if you are unable to have composure and be the calm in the middle of the rough sea? And you are not going to teach that by just saying that in a lecture hall, right? That's true. So it goes back to anything that comes in front of, for the young athletic trainer, being immersed in that environment and seeing Brian in the middle of the field at the 50-yard line and the cameras and the chaos and, sky cams flying around, you can hear it overhead. Somebody who's a young athletic trainer needs to see that and go, oh, Brian's pretty calm. I didn't expect that.
With 5 coaches, an owner, and 16 media people standing over the top of him, handling his business. That's what we used to call it. Go handle business. So I like these conversations because you guys just take it off. I turn my head away to take a note or two, but I think I'm keeping up with you. Michael, let's start down the road of, what happens when you now have an athlete that is not in the system at the school, but they come to you as an independent practitioner. And now you're dealing with that athlete. The parents don't like what's happening at the school, or they don't have an athletic trainer, or whatever the case may be. Now tell me how we work through those issues, and tell our audience and some of the young guys and everybody else to get to chime in on what we do then.
That's a great question, Joel, because that's exactly what Brian and Jason and I do. I mean, we're the people that kind of see some of these athletes that are, in other programs and are looking for other answers. And so it's a few things. Number one, going back to the confidence in your assessment and your interventions that you're providing for the person that you're seeing, so that you're giving your opinion in an attempt to be able to guide them further for their problem. The client that I had earlier, new client I had earlier today, seeing another physical therapist. And I said, a few different times, I'm like, what I'm doing is just different. What they're doing, they're very good at what they do. I'm giving you my opinion and guiding you in a little bit of a different direction, because I feel like that's what we need to do in order to have you take that next step. So, mutual respect for the other athletic trainer on the field, mutual respect for the other practitioners that are involved, but at the same time being able to be confident and comfortable about saying, you don't want to necessarily just automatically agree with what they say. You've got to kind of give your opinion when they're seeing you.
Keep that in mind, please, Michael. I want to come back to it, but it's that mutual respect for the other practitioner. Or maybe they came from the strength and conditioning coach and he had them doing such and such, but realize now, hey, you got to go over here, or being able to let them know that, hey, I believe in that other guy too. He's my brother in the profession, but I'm going to show you this way. Yep. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. That's great. Because I'll tell you, sometimes I look at some of the stuff. I'll be frank with you. I look at some of the stuff they've been given. I'm like, what the hell is that? Are you kidding me? That's as contraindicated as possible for some of the things. So, but I won't say that in front of them. I just try to figure out a nice, humble way of saying, hey, well, let me show you what I noticed, and let me show you why I'm showing something to you this way, which is the complete opposite way, or whatever.
Right.
To the communication. That's my time. I'm not getting paid to write the notes to the doctor. I'm not getting paid to get on the horn and spend time talking with the coach or the athletic trainer or the parents and stuff like that. So the understanding that no matter what field you're in, you want to get good at what you do, and you want to be able to create a practice or the things we talked about, the respect for what you do in your profession, you're going to have to put in the time that's not on the clock. You got to be able to kind of create that communication and kind of say, hey, here, I saw Sally today. That's my default name. I don't know why. Sorry for any Sallys in the world. I saw Sally today.
All right.
And here's what I saw. Here's what I gave her to do. You know, I'd love to discuss it further. If you got questions or concerns about why we did that, I'm happy to talk about it. But, you know, just taking the time to create that communication is an important part versus feeling like, oh, I'm going to show them something, but not allow the other person to really know what it is I'm doing or why I'm thinking that way.
Right. Brian?
I don't know why this comes up, but the two words side hustle. All right. So, you know, taking care of the teams is always the thing, but then the side hustle was always taking care of the other people, whether it was players, their kids, their wives, their brother, it doesn't matter. Right. You know, the athletes always, yo, B, you mind helping out? My dad twisted his ankle. You come over to the house, you know, you take care of him, tell him what he can do and all. Yeah, man, let me go check it out.
I got you.
When I look at the athletic trainer, I open up my kit and I pull out a roll of 1.5-inch Zonus. And I'm like, this is the athletic trainer. I can use him to tape things. I can bind this together. This broke. I can fix that. Like, just use it. It has 101 uses. The athletic trainer is this guy. I can go and I can side hustle a coverage for athletic training for movies. I can side hustle some, hey, I'm doing pickleball seasons here. I am going to throw in some prep work. I can do some things. Like, if you're an athletic trainer complaining that I'm not getting paid, homie, you just don't have a side hustle. Okay? Because it is the entire thing. But the more side hustle you do, and when you can hold space in that mode, whether it's your neighbors around, the people that you work with, you are essentially like a healer. And so, you know, people carry you around like you are value. Your card has value. Go call him. Call this person because you are there to help. I will say this to all you young athletic trainers out there. They're going to forget what you said. They're going to forget what you did, but they're never going to forget how you made them feel. My side hustle has all been making people just feel better, and I'm still making side hustle money today. And all I do is show up. Whether I fix them or not, I don't know, but I do make them feel better, and that's the thing.
And ladies and gentlemen,
can I say one thing just to build on that real quick? Sorry, just real quickly because it's really funny. My clients say to me all the time, I don't know what to call you. Like, you have all the answers. But I don't know what to call you. I'm like, well, I'm a certified athletic trainer, but they're like, yeah, but you're not. You're so much more than that. I'm afraid like it doesn't do you justice. So to your point.
So, which is like every athletic trainer's nickname, right? Everybody athletic trainer gets this nickname of like, you're the bomb, dude. Like, people calling me Miyagi or Molly or, I mean, Jason, what's your nickname, huh? You have a nickname where it's like, yo, master, you know, God, yeah.
My daughter tagged me with mine, Yoda. Which was pretty funny.
It's true, right? How many? Do you know how many athletic trainers have Yoda as their name?
Yeah.
Cramps, you know, or
Sensei,
yeah,
Sensei,
whatever it is, yeah.
But the new word for the athletic trainers, the term that you have to understand nowadays, ladies and gentlemen, is side hustle.
That's right.
You don't have no side hustle going on. You ain't living.
You gotta understand the side hustle. Anyway, so as we continue down this path of discussions, let's talk to the athletic trainer that's mid-career guy or young lady. They're kind of, they haven't really got the big job or the big break they think they wanted or done the big job, probably not enough side hustling. But they're trying to make a decision if they're going to stay in the profession or if they're going to leave. Is it the money? That mid-career professional, how did you guys, we all come through it, where you go, okay, can I do better somewhere else? Or is this really what I want to do? Advice, jump in.
Yeah, this may be a hot take for to answer your question, Yul. But I think the first thing that has to come up in those conversations for the athletic trainer who's thinking about, leaving the profession, and I've always hated that, is the shame has got to be taken away. I think that there are a ton of usually older athletic trainers that make that person who's on their own journey, to go along with what Brian was saying, their own life journey. You were talking about, being able to spend some time with your family and moving and all that. Let's take the shame away from that person for having those thoughts or having those questions or thinking about doing something else. And then we might even have a chance to be able to elevate the profession as those people say, well, you know what? I'm an athletic trainer at heart, but I ended up going and doing this. I think that's really, really important for people, because we should never shame anyone for chasing their dream, living their life, whatever it is that is going to make someone a better person, a better dad, a better friend, a better brother, son, whatever it may be. Can we start with taking the stigma away? Because I think any athletic trainer that's been in the profession 10 years or longer, if they were to tell you that they've never had that moment, is full of shit. There's just no way around it. They are. So let's take the stigma away from, people, allow people the freedom, I guess, or the feeling of freedom that they can morph and do what they want to do, because that's okay too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Michael?
Building on some of Brian's points about those 4 elements, when you take pride in what you do and you do your best every day, because every day is going to be different, but each day, do the best you can each day. Educate yourself. Spend time learning from others. Listen to those that are in the know. Don't look at things that's kind of like, yeah, I got that. No, I know that. Even if it's something that that they're telling you, listen, pay attention. They may say things in a way that actually you learn from it. The better you get by educating yourself and taking the time to immerse yourself in any job you do, but athletic training is a massive representation of this, then you should have the confidence to be able to take a step to do whatever it is you want to do, because you've gotten really good at what you do. Those that are just doing their work, those that aren't picking up the paper on the hallway in the athletic training room because it's not their job, those that aren't asking questions from someone who's a peer of theirs because they want to learn, because they're afraid like, oh, they're going to think I'm an idiot because I'm not, whatever it is, then you're only going to be able to go so far, and your success in being able to step out of that realm, the comfortable realm, into something different might not be as successful. When you do the best you can and you build that confidence and you build your educational knowledge, and frankly, as a result of that, contacts that you've made as a result of the interactions that you've established with friends and parents and athletes and other professionals, then any change you're going to do, in particular in that region, you've already known, you already recognized. Do you know what I mean? Referrals come in. It opens up a world of opportunity for you that's going to excite you to be able to take on this new thing with that much more confidence. Not look at what you did in the past negatively at all. It's all stepping stones. It's all chunks that's going to make you kind of who you are. But it's a nice opportunity to be able to build into that next level, whatever that next level might be.
You have no idea what opportunities lie ahead. You have to believe that.
And that's Brian, 100%. Go ahead, because I know you're in a unique position right now.
I think ultimately, well, not ultimately, but attitude is a huge important piece of anybody, depending on where they are in their life, right? One of my players, Greg Hopkins, his pregame speech was basically the attitude speech by Charles Swindoll. You guys know that, right?
I do.
The Swindoll one. Well, let me read it for those that don't know, because I think it's important. I think it's, guys, I have thought about letting my athletic training certification lapse so many times. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, just fucking go. Get the bus, get on the goddamn buses, leave without me. And I had the whole bus leave, and so I could clean up this without them giving me shit. I'll take a cab back. You go, I'll clean up the stuff, right? And here I am just cleaning the room down. And it's like, just let me do it my way. When we look at the athletic trainer, strength conditioning coach, nurse, anybody that's willing to be there for other people at their times of need, there are certain archetypes that you deal with, okay? Archetypes of people who are, I want to give to this world. I want to connect, right? A lot of times we are connectors. A lot of times we're the ones that we maybe weren't the biggest ones on the field, I'm 5'4", and I was the one that was picked last, kind of, but the way I still got to be on the teams was I made Gatorade, and I still got a ring when we won games and all this stuff. So recognition for me is huge, but that recognition has to come from within, right? You do have to feel that I'm bringing something to this world that is beyond just what the world is giving me money for and all the other things that people get thumbs up for on their Instagram. Like, what was your attitude to the whole approach, first of all? So because of that, these winning elements, we are willing to give so much of ourselves. We're also willing to not respect our own time. So we don't set boundaries well. There are things with recognition where all of a sudden people don't give us love that we feel like we need, and then we get all butt sore and butt hurt, and that's what causes us to go down that path of, well, I better get money then if they're not going to give me this. But if you're getting patted and slapped on the butt every day, you do it for fucking nothing, a freaking nothing, right? Like me, it's just who we are. So I just want to read this little piece, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
It's called Attitude by Charles Swindoll, okay? And it is amazing. If you have never, if I can actually just type it in with correction, all right, good, boom. Let me read it to you. Attitude. The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than the facts. It is more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than education, than failures, than successes, than what other people think, say, or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, a home. The remarkable thing is that we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we embrace for that day. And we cannot change our past, and we cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the one string that we actually do have, and that is our attitude. I'm convinced that life is 10% what happens to me, 90% how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes, by Charles Swindoll. So if it's one thing that athletic trainers can, strength coaches, any professional out there, you really want to hold on to something, hold on to your present, hold on to your attitude.
We always move through this a lot faster than I intend to. But I have a question that I ask all the time, and we're going to see if we can get it in there real quick. Is if you had one thing, and now it's a segue from attitude, but one thing to tell anyone in the profession that you wanted to talk to, any one person, other professional, athlete, if you had something that was on your mind you wanted to say, go, anyone.
I used the word human experience before. Embrace each day as an opportunity to go through the human experience and do your best to try and navigate with the right attitude the current environment that you're in, appreciating the fact that in the grand scheme of things, it's your ability to appreciate the human experience each day that is what's going to make you a better individual, a more fulfilled individual moving forward. And if your current situation isn't one that's ideal for you and is taking away from that opportunity, then do your best to change that environment, because that's what's going to hold you back from having a good human attitude and be able to move forward in yourself mentally, physically, professionally, things like that.
Okay. Jason?
I can't remember who said what or what sparked it, but I have kind of three things that I wrote down in this, and then maybe I'll use them for your question, Yul. But no matter what situation it is that you find yourself in, come to that situation, handle that situation, and come to it from a place of humility. Understand what is your role. And I think that this is a problem in all healthcare, not just athletic trainers. If you come to it from a place, having a God complex that I am here to fix, none of us are here to fix. Are you here to help? Or are you here to shine? Are you trying to help just so that you can shine? If you come to every situation, and it's not easy, and I recognize that it's just five, guys sitting here on a podcast, it's much more difficult in real life. But even if you don't bat 1,000 and you are able to, bat 750, and you can do this 3 out of every 4 times, 3 out of every 4 patient or athlete interactions, if you approach every one of those from a place of humility and just trying to do your best to help, I have a funny feeling that the rest of it is just going to work out the way that it's just supposed to. And if you could do that, the rest of it becomes a lot easier too.
Okay. Brian?
The athletic trainer, much like a chef, all right? You're there, you're gonna cook some meals for people, okay? It's up to you to continue to love the art of what it is that you do, all right?
Okay.
And hold on to your art, all right? The minute you lose your art, the moment you feel it, the minute you become just someone serving food on a line for $3.50, then it's okay, you can move on. But don't ever stop embracing the art of what the athletic training profession is. There's so much to it. It can paint a picture and a canvas for you along with other professions. It can do so much, but it is art. So is chef, so is cooking. So have fun with it.
So speaking of fun, we have our final question. Chris, are you there?
If you had to pick one particular athlete, and this is an athletic position, not a specific athlete or their name or their likeness, but a position in sports, you're going to pick this position, and this position could play in almost any other sport and do extremely well. Doesn't matter what position they're playing in another sport, but just that particular positional player is athletic enough or elite enough, however you want to look at it, to be able to compete in almost any other sport.
I'm a soccer guy at heart. I can't seem to go anywhere else with this. I think that defensive center midfielder on a soccer field, right in the middle, understands everybody else's job, has to be able to sometimes execute everyone else's job for them in certain times. I think that person, they're also going to be pretty aerobically fit to be able to hang with whatever else you got going on too. Usually a very athletic person, it's tough to play that at a high level and not be powerful while also having at least a burst of speed and acceleration. I'm going center defensive midfielder in soccer.
All right, defensive center mid.
No, he said midfielder. He said
No,
midfielder.
It's a defensive center midfielder, though.
That's right.
A midfielder is a defender and an offensive player.
That's no.
If you're a midfielder, you're defensive and you're offensive.
If you're defensive
It
center
doesn't
mid,
matter what sport you're playing. If you're a midfielder,
you're a back line. You're a back line
offensive.
guy. Anyway, go ahead. Who's up,
Michael.
Chris?
Michael,
A high-level surfer.
That's
Their
a new one.
agility, athleticism, manipulation of their body position, their ability to manipulate land, position, fluid. I feel it translates to pretty much any sport. I mean, you could even say football. They wouldn't be obviously a lineman, but in my mind, those people have a special mindset and skill.
Can they throw, catch, and
of
strike?
their bodies?
I was just going to say,
well,
no soccer players going to be catching no balls.
Here we go. Here we go.
So honestly, if you ever watch like someone who's a high-level surfer, let's not say that's their primary thing, but someone who can surf well, watch their ability to do most anything else, and you'd be surprised.
I don't want to make it sound like they're incapable. I just don't. I haven't watched enough of it to really know the talent level. I'm sure it's exceeding. I'm not getting, first of all, I'm not getting in the water because I don't like sharks. Secondly, I think that'd probably be pretty tough to learn how to do that.
Because his middle name is Chum.
I'm fascinated by him. See, there you go. So there's your apex predator. There's the predator that could be in any environment and do really well as a shark. Just put water everywhere, and the shark's going to be the apex predator. All right, Brian, you've had a lot of time to.
And I got to go with my linebackers. I got to go with my speed linebackers. Those guys. Oof, just. Have you guys ever seen Bryce Pop? You remember Bryce Pop?
Yeah.
That guy.
So you talking about outside guy? Surely not.
Yeah, I'm talking. Okay. Yeah. I'm talking about outside guy. That's what I said. Speed linebacker, baby. Go. Not the big guy in front. No. I'm talking about the quick guy. All right.
Okay.
That guy. Wow. He's fast. He could take a hit. That guy can, if he wanted to, could turn around and play offense for sure. I've seen it happen in arena football way too many times.
Oh,
and side to side, cover to cover. I mean, those are my guys. I love them. Yeah, they're utility guys all the time. Great to play with, and great attitudes all the time. They're okay with getting run over. Sometimes they make a stop. Sometimes they make a pick. I don't know. I like them. Those are my guys. All I know is my linebacker is beating the soccer player and the surfer in basketball. So let's go.
It's a 3-pointer kind of game. I don't know.
No,
All
hey
right,
guys,
well,
we've enjoyed having you on. When I seen this crew, I knew it was going to be a good conversation. I appreciate everything you guys bring to the table. I hope you'll come back and visit us one at a time as we keep this train rolling when we pick up in 23, and hopefully we'll see. It's not a promise, but hopefully we'll see you guys at a conference, and we'll be doing some outtakes there every now and again. I always see Brian, and then I lose him because he's moving too fast. I told you I'm old. I ain't trying to catch him. I'm trying to ambush him.
Just watch for you hiding in a corner. You might be hiding in like one of the booths. Wait. I don't know if he'll be able to tackle you either, though. He might not be able to move fast enough.
Hey, look, I got about a good 3-step burst, and then I need the ice tub. I need some
little contrast bath for you. Don't worry, I'm sure athletic training friends can get that all set up for you right before you you make your little explosive.
We take care of our own, man. We take care of our own. All right?
But look, guys, it's been great having you on. Like I said, we hope to have you back on in the future. And if you don't have anything else for us, and Chris doesn't have anything else, Chris.
This has been Performance Talk with Ewell Gordon and Chris Costa. Today's guests in our athletic roundtable were Michael Mullen, Jason Byrne, and Brian Newen. Stay tuned, guys.
That's it for another episode of Performance Talk. Come back next time as Ewell and Chris welcome their next guest to the show to discuss what's going on in performance. For sponsorship information, or if you would like to be part of the show, leave your inquiry at theperformancetalk@gmail.com. That's theperformancetalk@gmail.com. Be sure to check in for future episodes of Performance Talk.